Greetings and welcome back to Productive DeFi. So last time we learned about the lending and borrowing protocol, and we got to understand the fundamentals of how lending and borrowing works in DeFi. Now in this video, you're going to see me use that protocol hands-on, and you're going to watch me lock in over an 11% yield in this video. Now the fees are a little bit higher on the Ethereum network, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating in this video. So this is definitely a nice video to sit back and enjoy for educational purposes while you enjoy a cup of coffee, because there are a lot more affordable ways to reduce your fees, which I'm going to show you in future lessons. But this is the fundamentals of how DeFi works and interacting with these protocols. So sit back, relax, enjoy this video. If you remember last time, what we did is we located an opportunity to earn over an 11% yield on the DAI coin. And what we're going to do with that stable coin is we're going to lock in that yield. So we need to get that, we need to acquire some DAI so that way we can then lend it out and earn that yield. So let's jump into it. That's what we're going to do in this video. So I'm going to go to Coinbase and I'm going to need to acquire the DAI. So let me go ahead and look for that. All right, so I've got the DAI asset loaded up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my USDC, which I told you before I preloaded. I'm going to go ahead and buy some of the DAI because I don't have any right now. So let's go ahead. I can buy up to the amount of money that I have in my other stablecoin. So basically just swap in one stablecoin for another. As you can see, you do have to pay fees a little bit here to do these transactions. I do have the Coinbase membership, which allows me to avoid this fee here. So that's something you could consider. They have an upgraded version, Coinbase One. But anyways, I have no affiliation with Coinbase. So just mentioning that's why I don't have to pay this fee. You may have to pay this fee if you don't have the paid version of Coinbase, which they charge a monthly amount for. But that's not too important. You could be using some other exchange here too. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to acquire these. I want to get like $100 worth, or 99 is what it comes out to after doing the transaction. So they're taking a little bit of a spread there. Okay, so all right, we have that now. So now that we have this, what we want to do is we want to go and send that to our wallet. So we have this send and receive option here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send that DAI now over to one of my accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and select the DAI. I have the 99 DAI that I just transferred the USDC to acquire the DAI. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send that to a recipient. Now I want to send it to myself. So one of the easiest ways to do this with our MetaMask, to get this into our MetaMask account, is to go ahead into our MetaMask and just very simply hit this copy button on our address. So I'm just going to hit copy. And what I can do is I can use this address now to send these funds over to MetaMask. So the recipient is that wallet. And I'm just going to go ahead and select that. And so you just make sure that these numbers match up the ones that you copied over. It's always good to double check things, especially when you're sending large amounts. And another tip here, the first couple times that you send funds around, good lesson that I learned is, make sure you send a small amount first before you send a full amount. You definitely don't want to transact like $30,000 if you haven't had a successful $100 transfer. You just want to make sure that you are successfully seeing your funds show up through the channels that you're using. It's always good to send a small amount before sending the full amount sometimes, especially if you're new and if you have any uncertainty. Even if you think you're certain but you're newer, I recommend you do that. That's a good protocol. Send a small amount before you send a big amount. So anyways, I'm going to send the amount though. I'm going to send the funds over. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I want to send, it's asking me how much do I want to send over. I'm going to send the max. So I'm going to send over as much as I can. I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And now it says that it's been sent. Now it says here that the send time should be less than 10 minutes. So, everything in blockchain requires, mining and stake proof and certain types of protocols that need to figure out, how something is considered a valid transaction. So anytime you send funds over the blockchain, there will be a little bit delay of the send time. So, just take note that it might not be instant, some protocols are faster than others. Some are slower than others. So it really depends. But in this case, it's saying that it's going to take us about 10 minutes to send this over. Now, something else to notice, you can see we can't get the full amount that we purchased because we need to pay the miners, the people that do verify this transaction that's going to take place within 10 minutes. And we need to pay them, so we need to pay the network fees. So in this case, in order to send it over the Ethereum network, so this is our network, we're transacting over Ethereum. and we're sending a DAI coin over the Ethereum network. And I'm going to talk more about networks in a future lesson. I'm trying to keep it simple now, just focus on the Ethereum network, which is the default that a lot of things are set up to, and the most popular one, because Ethereum is the one that introduced the smart contracts and all that good stuff, which hopefully by now you're familiar with. But yeah, so I'm going to need to pay a little bit of a fee, and that's very, very common. So, that is something to consider. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send this, and I'll try to show you later how we can reduce those fees. Now, I do have an authenticator app here on my phone, so I do need to authenticate this. So I'm just going to do that 1 second. And that authenticator app is a good security protocol that you probably should consider in the future as well. Just having one additional verification so somebody doesn't get into your account and send funds without your permission. All right, so that's just a second level of verification. And yeah, so now oh, look at this tip too. It says no network fees if you use the USDC. So that is something cool. So for a limited time, they have a special offer. So I could have avoided fees by taking advantage of this special offer, but I'm trying to showcase that we can earn that higher yield than the USDC as we saw here on the protocol. It is paying a higher yield. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to get the higher yield. All right, so that transaction says that it's done. Now, you can also go to view details, and what that will do is it will give you some information about the transaction. So it'll let you know that that transaction still happened. So we're going to have to wait, just like I said, up to potentially 10 minutes for this transaction to be verified. Now, again, some other the transactions will happen in seconds and others in minutes. Now, with the DAI protocol here for this DAI stablecoin, it is going to take potentially up to 10 minutes. So I'll just fast forward this video so you don't have to sit through here waiting. But once this status is no longer pending and it's successful, I'll show you what it looks like in our wallet. So if you don't see it instantly in your wallet, don't panic. It's probably still processing. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and check on the status of everything. So if I come into my wallet here and I go ahead and I click the refresh list here, it actually says that it found one new token that was associated with this account. And I'm assuming that's the funds that we sent over. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit import tokens. And look at that. It said found one new token, and there's our token. And it tells us that we have $95.33. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. Just means that we can view it now in our wallet. I mean, if I didn't import it, it would still technically be ours. It's just that the wallet has helped manage all of our funds, and our wallet also stores the secret keys. So we're the only one that can actually access the funds to this. But it's all associated with the secret keys that are related to the wallet. I guess there's no reason to go into the technicals too much, but we import it so that way we can view and manage everything that is associated with our wallet. So yeah, I'm just going to import that, and you can see I have the funds now. And so let's head back over to that protocol, and you can see it's instantly notified me that it's available and I can use it as collateral. So I'm going to also, this is going to be another learning opportunity to learn a very important lesson that I did intentionally just to showcase to you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to supply that collateral, and you're going to see what happens here. It's really funny. So I'm going to go max. Now, this is a common newbie mistake. You think you're going to do something on blockchain. You're a new person, and I did this the first time I was on blockchain. I'm guilty of it too. But I'm sharing this with you because a lot of people don't realize this. So there's a whole bunch of lessons that I'm trying to get through to you here. So let's just go through them one at a time. One, it says we can't do this transaction. We can't do it. It says you don't have enough ETH in your account to pay for the transaction fees on the Ethereum network. So if you remember, like I said, this is all on the Ethereum network. And as you can see, it says Ethereum network at the top. We'll talk about, again, other networks later, but I'm keeping it to the most popular network, and I'm to showcase to you on trying to keep the fundamentals, like focusing on the fundamentals without introducing too much information all at the same time. So yeah, it says we can't do it. We can't put the money in because we don't have the ETH to pay for it. So when you're on a network, you need the network coin in order to pay the fees. And that's true for pretty much all networks. So yeah, this is an important lesson. I did this intentionally to show you so you know this, and I want to showcase this and use this as an educational opportunity. It's a very important lesson. We need to fund our account with ETH as well in order to make this transaction happen. Isn't that kind of silly, right? Like you wouldn't maybe necessarily expect that if you're new to blockchain. So it's a very important lesson. And you probably wouldn't have also not understood this lesson if I just randomly sent over the ETH and then this. You would have been like, why is he sending 2 coins? I thought we were just going to do the DAI. So I wanted to make sure you learned this lesson by seeing the warning. So yeah, now we have to go buy ETH and we have to transact that over as well. So I'm going to go show you that. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to buy some ETH. Actually, I already have some. I have about $100 or so. So what I can do, I forgot that I had that in here. I'm just going to go ahead and take the $100 of ETH and I'll send that over. And so this is just a good tip since I happen to think of it while we're on the subject. So let me just make this transaction. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy my wallet. Now, it does save your addresses from the past and stuff, but I like to always paste them because, you know, it's not very clear and I don't have them labeled. So I like to just always paste it just to make sure it goes in the wallet that I intend to, because I have several other wallets, you know. This is my demonstration wallet and I have another wallet that I use for, you know, practical purposes, etc. So, all right, we're going to send this ETH over. We're going to do it to the same address. It's the same process. So, you know, doing this twice hopefully is a good learning. Now you're going to see, we're going to put the Ethereum here. It says 0. We want to send this from Coinbase over to our MetaMask wallet. So I'm going to go preview the send. You're going to see that they're going to charge me another $1 in fees to transact this. It's going to take up to 10 minutes potentially. So let's go ahead and let's send that. Now, very important, why do we have to send it? Just a reminder, why do we have to send it from Coinbase over to MetaMask again? Well, it's because Coinbase owns the secret keys if we leave it in Coinbase, right? So if we leave it in Coinbase, they own the funds. It's like we don't really have access to it. It's like it's still in their company. They're a US company, and they hold the keys and they hold access to all of our funds. When we send it over to MetaMask, it's actually, we're the only ones in the world that we have these secret keys, and our MetaMask is ours. Like, even if there's no way somebody can take it from us basically, unless they find our recovery phrase, or they figured out how to get into your wallet, or there was some sort of or you had some sort of like virus or something get onto your computer and they had an exploit for that or something, to those types of extents and beyond. So it's pretty much like puts you in the power of the people. Once it's in your wallet, it's the power of the people, and it's in your power. Now it says I still have $0. Again, we're waiting on that 10-minute transaction. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh the list. I don't see anything happening here. What we can do is we can just go ahead and fast forward this video once that transaction is done. All right, so it looks like that was pretty quick. It actually took about 2 minutes for me, and it didn't take that long. So here it is now in our account. Let's head back over to Aave and let's go ahead and let's take a look at this protocol. So we have our DAI now available, and we have our ETH. Now, I'm not going to supply the ETH. It doesn't pay that high of an APY. It allows you to do that. The whole purpose of putting that in here was not to put it out as lending and as supplying. That was to pay our fees. So now I can show you if I try to supply the DAI, it's going to say that we have to pay fees, but this time we're able to afford it and no longer getting that warning because we have the Ethereum in the account. Now you can see this fee is quite high. $21 is very expensive. Now in the next lesson, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about gas and how that works. But for now, just accept it for face value, one lesson at a time. I'll make a short video after this one about gas prices. But we have to pay this network fee in order to transact on the Ethereum network. So, and because I waited, apparently the network got more congested, so the price just went up. So I actually just lost $2 talking. So I just talked myself out of $2. I think that's hilarious. But yeah, let's just go ahead and do this. Now, I don't recommend paying this high of a fee. I'm going to show you ways to do this much cheaper later, but I want to show you how the fees add up. My goodness. Oh, and we can save some money. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have to approve DAI to continue. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And go. And then I'm going to approve. And then now we are going to, once this is approved, and basically what we've done is we've approved the protocol to talk with MetaMask and allow access to the DAI. And once that transaction is settled in the blockchain, then we'll be able to supply the DAI. So we're just waiting here on that. Okay, and once that's ready, now the gas fees look like they've gone down. Oh my goodness, I better supply it before the price goes up. So let's go ahead and let's hit supply. And same thing, we're going to have to approve this in our account. And you can always just verify here, what is it? So the total, it's telling us the total gas fee. So we're just going to go ahead and accept that gas fee because here's the estimate, and then it shows us the finalized version on our transaction. So, and I think that's also why they try to warn you here. That's just an estimate. Your wallet will set the price of the transaction. So you want to verify what they're showing here as the gas price is what your wallet says, just in case your wallet end up charging like a lot more. That's something to be concerned about. So everything takes a little bit of time with blockchain because you're just waiting for the transactions to go through. Look at this. Now we have it supplied it. And now the APY has changed a little bit, but we're earning almost 11%, 10.98. I mean, let's just call it 11. We're earning 11% here on DAI. We have just supplied a stable coin and we're earning 11% on it. I mean, dude, like, how exciting is that? Stock market returns of 11% would be amazing in a year, and we're earning a years of 11%, a yearly APY. I mean, we're earning almost as much. I mean, not as much, but almost as much, maybe half of what credit card companies charge for APY. So, like on your credit card. So this is pretty amazing. I mean, this is putting the power in the people. This is putting the power in your hands, basically. The decentralized finance, like, we are the bank now. I mean, this is amazing. I just love this. So what happened here, though, we obviously had to pay some fees. So the question is, 11% a year on $100 would be, $11. So, when you do the math, you start to realize, hey, the fees have really eaten things up. And that's why I did this. I did this as an educational lesson because, you have to consider the fees. We paid, almost $20 in fees. And if we leave $100 here earning yield, we're going to earn about, $11 in a year. So we just spent 20 to earn 11. Definitely doesn't make sense. So we need to figure out how we can pay less fees. And that's probably, I hope that alone, learning how to handle these fees, helps you pay for this course in general, because I'm going to show you how we can pay pennies instead of $20. And I think that's going to be amazing. That's going to be another lesson. We're taking one thing at a time. This is the fundamentals. I want to show you how you can make mistakes, how not to make mistakes by showing you the mistakes. I'm intentionally, I hope this is appreciated. I'm intentionally just blowing money here in an attempt to show you and I'm spending these fees. My goal ultimately is to spend these fees so you don't have to pay these fees and to understand how costly it can get. Now, it gets costly because I want to show you there's more fees. If we want to go ahead and withdraw this, we want to withdraw it. Well, guess what? There's a fee, $17 to withdraw it. So even if we said that we spent $20 to earn 11, well, no, actually, there's a hidden cost in the future. Look at that. Now we got to pay this fee to get it out of there. So now we're down almost $40 to earn 11. I mean, we better be leaving this in for over like 20 years to make sure that, the compound interest of multiple years pays for those fees, because that's a lot. So yeah, that's not so good. Another thing, now what's kind of cool though, cool in the terms of the aspect of now we can borrow. So now we have collateral, we can borrow against that collateral. So that's going to be a whole lesson of its own. But before I just talk about that really quickly, let me just show you that if I wanted to like borrow another coin. So let's go ahead and let's say that I wanted to borrow something like, let's go ahead and see, since we're on the Ethereum network, we can borrow some ETH. So we can borrow some Ethereum. Now we do have to pay 2.82% on it, but we're earning 11%. So that's a pretty good spread in our favor, where we're still, earning money overall, because we're earning more yield than we'd have to pay if we borrow it. But I just want to show you, if I want to borrow this too, look, there's a fee. I have to pay the network transaction fee to be supplied what I'm going to borrow. So, that's a whole thing as well. So yeah, that's not good. So if I wanted to borrow 0.01 ETH, I got to pay. Right now, the network fee is up to 30. So apparently network congestion just spiked. But even if I wait for it to come down and pay $20, I'm paying $20 to borrow, $20 to withdraw, $20 to put it in. That's $60. I'm never going to really make a return here on this 11% paying these fees. That's why it's going to be important in the next lessons that you see, where we get the fees down to a reasonable amount where we can actually enjoy the yield that we earn. Because we're we want to be paying like less than 10 cents a transaction. If we paid less than 10 cents a transaction, or roughly like 20 cents a transaction, we could get this profitable. But with these fees on the Ethereum network, this is not happening. So we're going to learn in future lessons how to use networks other than Ethereum, so we don't have to pay these fees. But just to wrap up this lesson and learn the fundamentals, again, I hope you definitely don't. Just want you to see this so you don't end up making the mistake of paying all these fees. But yeah, just to wrap up the lesson here on lending and borrowing, let's talk about borrowing. So we can borrow. So let's just hypothetically say that we wanted to borrow here. So if I wanted to borrow 0.01 ETH, I can go ahead and I can borrow that now against our collateral. So that's pretty cool. So that would be $20 worth of ETH that I would borrow against the $100 that we have. So an important lesson with borrowing, there's this health factor, and this health factor is related to that $95 that we have in there. It's basically the ratio of what you have as collateral versus what you are borrowing. So if I go to the details of this ETH here and we take a look, it tells you a lot about it. It says that it gives you a lot of information. One of the things that we want to look at is we want to look at the max LTV. So this is the maximum loan to value ratio. So it represents the maximum borrowing power of a specific collateral. So for example, if your collateral has an LTV of 75%, in this case it's 80, the user can borrow up to 0.75 worth of ETH in the principal currency for every 1 ETH worth of collateral. So in other words, this 80% means that we can borrow up to 80% of what we have in his capital. So, just rounding this, if we had $100 in here, just rounding up to have a simple number, if we didn't have to pay all those fees, if we had $100 in here, we could borrow up to about $80. It's just slightly higher here. It's 80.5. But, you get the idea. So we could borrow up to $80 worth of this ETH. So that would be our maximum collateral that we could use. Now, you can see the liquidation threshold. Now that's going to be when it decides to liquidate our collateral to, if we go past the maximum LTV. So what that means is you don't want to borrow the max, because if you borrow the max, you're really close to the liquidation threshold. And since Ethereum can fluctuate in value and so forth, if we borrow it and, it fluctuates in value compared to what we have as collateral, and it reaches that threshold, meaning that like Ethereum goes down in value, and now we're like holding 83% of what we borrowed compared to what we have as collateral. So the price goes down, and now we get liquidated because we have less value. We borrowed and we lost the value, and it's going to take what we put up as collateral. It's just like it's just going back to the bank example. We put our house up as collateral. The bank is going to repossess our house if we don't pay the loan, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. And you can also see that there's a liquidation penalty. So not only do they liquidate your asset, but they take 5% of what you put up as collateral as a penalty for violating this threshold. So how do you borrow then safely? Well, there's probably no perfect way to borrow safely. There's always risk. You're basically, it's like taking out a loan. So what you have to do though is, if we are going to borrow something like this, instead of borrowing the max amount, because this is the max amount we could borrow right now is $72 on our $95. So instead of borrowing the max amount, which is going to put us very close to the liquidation threshold, putting our health factor into the red, we can borrow something safer like 0.02, and now we're at 1.85. So if we do the max, you can see it gets closer to the value 1. And if we do a much smaller amount, it gets bigger than the value of 1 and it turns green. So, you probably want to stay away from like 1.5. So like 0.02. So like if this liquidation threshold gets to 1.5 or so, then you're borrowing quite a bit of money compared to what you have up here. You can see that 1.5 would basically be 50% of the maximum amount that you have up as collateral. So it's like, it would be like $50. You can see, so $50, that's like half of $100. So, I'm rounding up for simplicity. So $50 would be close to about half of what you have up as collateral. So, it's basically like, you try to borrow 50% or less of the value of what you have as collateral. So rewording that even more simply, if you put up something, it's like, don't ever borrow more than half to stay on the healthier side. and then less than that if you want to be even safer. You know, you could, if you want to be really safe, just borrow like 10%, right? You know, $10. Like, so if you borrow 10%, then you're really, really safe and you don't have to worry about it. Now, I know we don't have much up here as collateral, but like say hypothetically you put $1 million, 10% would be $100,000. So I mean, it's pretty amazing that you could put up $1 million, earn 11% interest on that stable coin, and then you could borrow, you know, $100,000 of some other coin theoretically. It's all, those are all theoreticals, obviously, but yeah, that just to give you an idea of how the math kind of checks out. I hope I'm not talking too fast with the math. I know not everybody is like, you know, great with math, and I'm not the best math whiz in the world either. So the simple rule here, to break it down in case I spoke too much, is just basically if you put something up, don't take out more than half of that value here, and ideally take out less to be safe. Again, not financial advice, just educational purposes. Otherwise, you get liquidated. They take your collateral, just like a bank repossessing whatever you put up as collateral if you don't pay your loan. And that's lending and borrowing. And you can see, you know, if you want to just be a lender and just earn interest, you can do that. And that's what I did here. And I could borrow these, and then I could go and use what I borrow for other stuff. But let's go ahead and let's borrow. So, you know, again, this is, you know, all for demonstration purposes, and it's definitely not worth the amount in fees that I'm going to pay here. But let's go ahead and let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out something 1.85. So that's greater than the 1.5 I mentioned. So I'll go ahead and I'll take this. It's 40 bucks. So I'm earning money on $100, and I'm getting 40 bucks out here that I'm going to borrow for less interest than what I'm earning, even though the fees are killing me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to approve that. And yeah, so there we go. We're going to borrow it, and we're going to have to pay those fees. All right, there we go. We have to pay that fee to approve it, and then we're going to have to click borrow and pay more fees. So as you can see, the fees can add up here on the Ethereum network. What you'll see in future lessons is that a lot of money can be saved by using other networks other than Ethereum, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the upcoming videos, because these fees, I am not happy. Here we go, $31 in fees to borrow $41. Whoa. Yeah, this is not good. So the reason I'm doing this again, I hope you can appreciate me taking the losses here, so that way you can see just how bad the fees can get. You know, you don't want to pay the amount in fees that I just paid. Teaching you the fundamentals here with Ethereum, and then teaching you better ways that we can go about it later on in the upcoming lessons. There's a lot of people that are new to DeFi that pay these fees. They don't really understand what they're doing. Now, theoretically, if I was dealing with like $1 million here and I was paying 20 bucks fees, that might not be the worst thing in the world. So Ethereum could still be highly profitable. But when you're dealing in smaller amounts and you're trying to invest a smaller amount of funds, then these fees are just killer. Because, you know, I just paid, you know, close to $100 in fees between all the transactions that we made here. And if I want to withdraw again, well, you know, and what if I want to repay my loan? If I want to repay my loan, I got to pay 20 bucks. Isn't that crazy? So that's why you have to, if I didn't show you this, you wouldn't even think about that. Well, when you want to go and repay the loan, you know, you have to pay a fee. You got to make that transaction on the network. In order to make the transaction on the network, you have to pay the fee. And Ethereum is an expensive network. And so, yeah, but we have this ETH now. Let's go ahead and let's see. Here we go. Activity, we borrowed. Let's go ahead. Let's look at our tokens. You can see that if we refresh our list here, that our account balance is up to $110. If you remember, it went down before below 90 when we paid the transaction fees. We borrowed this, and these funds are in our wallet now. So that is kind of cool. So we actually did, we lent out the DAI. It's no longer here in our account, and we borrowed the Ether, and it is now here in our wallet. How cool is that? So yeah, so this is how you lend and you borrow, and this is also how you should not pay high amounts in fees. So I really hope you didn't follow along with this lesson when it comes to paying the fees. I will show you another lesson that is a much better candidate where you'll have a lot less in fees to pay. And let's do that next. So I'm going to do two things. I'm just going to talk about the gas fees in the next video just to address how those work. Obviously, you saw they're very expensive. But I do want to kind of talk about gas fees really quickly. It'll be a short video. And then after that, I'm going to show you how we can save on those gas fees. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you enjoyed me losing about $100 in just a matter of seconds to fees. Again, I did this because there's no better way for you to see how expensive it can be than to actually see it being done. And when I first traded, I made the mistake of not realizing that there were much better ways, and I paid too much in fees in the past. And I am very happy to pass this information down to you to empower you to save money in the future. And I hope that this lesson alone helps pay for your education in the cost of joining the course. And I really appreciate you being a member in this community and joining this course. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'm excited to jump into the next lessons, and I'm excited to show you some really awesome stuff with DeFi. Again, we're going to take it one step at a time. And then, as you know, in the next section, we're going to get into the self-sufficiency, making you a master in how navigating DeFi works. All right, I'll see you over there.